All right, guys, what is up? Welcome back to Second Technique Tuesday. To remind you guys, give you a refresher, we did a squat last week. So right now we're going over all of our primal movements, or all our movements that we perform in our initial assessment. That's our free introductory session that we do with anyone that's ready to come in and check out what we're all about. Okay, so movement today is going to be the step up. So this is another lower body primal. We call this primal Z. This is when your hips are going to be shifting, your pelvis is going to be rotating up and down on an axis, and that's why we call it primal Z. So within the step up, we're going to start with why we perform this movement. I think it's imperative to kind of go over this, and it's not something we talked about last week. So the way we teach the step up is very specific, and it may not be the best way to step up with the most weight, and it definitely isn't the best way to step up the most reps in a certain amount of time, okay? So the way we teach everything is to have carryover to sprinting and running, because at the end of the day, we're a performance gym, and we're focused on taking people's movement outside of the gym to a higher level to increase their speed, increase their power, get them stronger, more injury resilient, prevention type of deal. So when it comes to accumulating more reps faster, that's not what we do. So the way we teach the step up is kind of reverse engineered towards improving performance, and with the mindset of a sport or sprinting rather than the most weight or the most reps. So that will give you kind of an insight into why we teach it the way we do. Okay, so how we do the step up. Typically, we always keep the box low. Okay, so when I have an athlete on the box, I would like to see that the knee is below the hip. Okay, that or level with the hip. I wouldn't go much higher than that, especially when we're trying to build strength, because that's not going to carry over as much to our running. So once we get higher than hip level, we're definitely getting away from typical sprint mechanics, right? So with that in mind, we're going to have a lower box, probably 20 to 24 inches. And the way we always teach it is to have someone step their foot onto the box first. We're going to complete all our reps on one leg, and then we'll switch. Okay, so we look for a toes forward position, which is what we do in our other movements. Now, what's imperative here is the way that we perform it, and that's going to be with an emphasis on the posterior chain. Okay, so the hamstrings, the butt cheek, we want to pull through the front leg and eliminate any push off the back leg. So I'll switch to show you. We see this a lot. So people come in and instinctively, they're probably weak through here, and the first thing they want to do is push or jump off the back leg. So they're going to push up, okay? And then if you strung together multiple reps, it's going to look like this. Bop, bop, okay? So they're pushing through this back leg, all right? Now, that's not what we want. It might be more efficient for getting more step-ups because you're not having to train that lead leg as much, but we're actually trying to train that lead leg so we can have carryover to the sprint. So when we have proper sprint mechanics, knee's going to come up and we're going to push and pull down through the floor. That's going to create that drive, that pop. So when we teach this step up, that's what we're looking for. So we're going to load heavily into this lead leg. Okay, we're going to fill it through the hamstring, through the glute, and my goal is going to be able to pull and lift myself up with this lead leg and minimize anything off this back leg. Okay, so I'm going to load and I'm going to pull up. Okay, very controlled. Now, the lowering is just as important. The lowering is where we can build eccentric strength. Okay, and to dumb that down, basically when somebody changes directions, lands, stops on the court, that's when you're at the most risk for injury. You don't get injured as much taking off. It's usually either from impact or taking a load by trying to change directions, and we lose posture and position and we can get hurt. Okay, so we work specifically on developing strength through the eccentric portion. That way we can make our athletes not only more powerful but more injury resilient. I don't want to say you can prevent injury in sport, because that's something that, it can always happen. It's a risk you take. So we are doing our best to make sure our athletes are prepared for the demands of sport, and in that way mitigating their chance to get injured. So Again, we're going to pull up, and then the focus on the eccentric is going to be a slow and controlled lower the same way we came up. So we're going to load into the hamstring and butt cheek, and we're going to control it down. Boom, there. Pull through, control it down, boom. And then you're going to obviously over time load this with dumbbells, something on the back, sandbag, whatever. As they start to progress, we will go into a position that's going to carry over as well. We're going to start pulling the knee and the toe up, okay? So dorsiflexion of the foot. And that's going to look like this. We're going to load here, we're going to pull, we're going to stabilize, lift the knee toe, hold that position with weight, and then control back down, okay? And that's going to help start carrying over to our sprint mechanics, and that's the way that we perform that. Now, most people will be limited by the lowering. So when we lower controlled like that, that's going to be where most of our athletes are failing. So that's why I say it's not the best way to lift the most weight, because if you're stepping up like this, you're not going to be able to do as much weight on the lower than you would if you just stepped up and then plumped down. Okay, so the way we do it is not the most efficient for lifting the most weight, okay? But it's the most efficient for building the right pathways to be explosive and not get injured, all right? So from the front, let's show you a couple from the front, because what we are looking for as a coach from the front is the hip and the butt cheek, the glute, the ability to stabilize through this whole hip area and keep that knee stacked up over the foot. Okay, so we pull up, if you can, knee up, toe up, and then we're controlling down. Now, what we'll see from a lot of athletes is they'll go to step up and they'll have potentially a little bit of valgus here. So they'll come in, side there, and you'll see that knee drop. We're going to work to get away from that, strengthen the hip and the foot, because you'll see a lot of people have a hard time stabilizing on one foot like this. They'll be all over the place. So that's how you know there's some foot strength, hip strength issues, and they're never going to be stable until you kind of build the strength through that and practice that, and we do some foot stuff, which we can do a video on if you guys are interested. But that's going to be a big issue, is they're not going to be able to stabilize right here. They're going to be all over the place. And then where you're really going to see, if an athlete has weak hips, where you're really going to see that valgus tendency, which this all ties together, is on the lowering. So when they go to lower, they won't have the strength, and the knee will collapse here as they lower, especially if you slow it down and make it stay controlled. So it's really going to highlight if an athlete doesn't have the hip strength. Why does that matter? Because as soon as I go and play a sport and I jump high, I take off, I land, I go to cut, okay? When there's load put upon me like that, and my first movement on this box, when I have to control a lower, is to drop the knee in, I'll bet you money when they're playing their sport, their knee's dropping in, okay? And everybody knows, or if you don't know, that leads to the risk for an ACL tear or a whole knee tear, okay? So when we see that, when we see an athlete doing that, I would bet when they go to jump, they drop their knees in to the inside of their foot. I bet when they go to cut, they plant their knee on the inside. It all carries over, okay? So we can literally see that in the step up when we perform it this way. So we can bring an athlete in and say, hey, you're at a higher risk for injury just by performing the step up, okay? And it all carries over. So now that you know that, start applying that, and it can really make the way you train athletes much more effective, and you can explain it to them just like this, and it really gets their buy-in, okay? So we usually do 5 on one leg, 5 on the other leg, and we're looking for those faults and give us a good idea of what we need to work on, okay? Now, we kind of went over the deficiency with the knee drop, foot instability, and how that applies to injury prevention, okay? Those are the main things we're looking for. Another thing you can look at would be where their hips at through this whole process. So when I'm coming here to step up, it's important to cue them to get those butt cheeks underneath or stack the pelvis so that we can work from the posterior chain, okay? Because a lot of athletes will want to stick their butt back, load their chest forward, and get up into their quad, okay? They're going to push through their midfoot, toes, load that knee forward, get into that quad. There's a time and place for this. We do train specifically knees over toes. We get in really extreme ranges of motion there, but it's usually with a different movement, okay? So what we're trying to train here is the posterior chain. So we're going to change that. We're going to make sure that butt cheek squeeze underneath. We're stacked from the hip to the shoulder, and that's going to make me work from that posterior chain. Okay, and they'll feel it right away. When you get the hip underneath, again, that carries over to sprinting. When I'm sprinting, I don't want my butt back and my chest forward. I'm going to be overreaching, and I'm not going to be able to create a lot of power. Okay, a good sprint technique, hips through. This is top end speed. Hips through, knee up, pull down and through. Okay, it's going to carry over to acceleration as well. That hip's going to be really important to keep underneath and stacked up. So again, all this comes together into carryover, which I've sprinkled in through this conversation. The reason we do everything is to carry over outside of here. We don't care how many reps you do, how fast you can do them. Okay, we care about the quality of rep, the posture and position, and how that is going to improve you outside of here, improve your movement. And the loading or the weight is just a tool to challenge posture and position. But as soon as you load it up too much, or you try to do too many reps in a set and you start to lose that, you're just reinforcing bad movement patterns. So that's where we're really specific on that. Okay, and that's why we teach to step up the way we do, and we've had a lot of success with it. So hopefully this gave you a good insight. If you're a coach, you could use this. You can go ahead and take all that information. I learned a lot of this from Power Athletes Methodology course, so you can check them out. But they opened my eyes into how to perform it this way. Okay, go ahead and take that, use that. Hit me up if you have any questions or you want to learn more. If you want us to cover any other movements we do, let me know. I appreciate you guys taking the time to check it out, tune in. I'm going to put it up on YouTube. I'm also putting together a course on our full assessment and how we do it. Just a short video course so that coaches that are interested can purchase that and use it in their gym to assess their athletes when they come in and know what to look for, and potentially have all their coaches go through it as well. Okay? So again, thanks for Sport Enhanced Athletics. Check us out. Literally any social media, anything, website, YouTube, it's all Enhanced Athletics. The more you connect with us, the more I'm driven to make these videos, right? So I appreciate you guys. And if you need anything, let me know. If you are in Pocatello, come in, do our assessment for free. I don't care what gym you go to. I don't care, how you train. We can help give you some information on how you can improve, and you can take that back to the gym you're at and apply that to your training. Okay, we would love to see everyone grow and prosper here in town, and want to support all the other gyms as well. So assessments is always free. If you're on site, come check it out. If you're interested in online, hit me up. We can definitely help you out on the internet. So have a great day, and appreciate you guys. I'm out.